What's happening? Welcome to the Agent Success Podcast. I have the privilege of an out-of-towner visiting me today. This is my friend Joe Turco from Boston.
Wicked smart, right?
Wicked smart Joe coming in to drop knowledge for y'all. So Joe is a team lead in Boston. He is a coach and a mentor to tons of agents, not just in Boston, but all over the country.
Yep.
And he's going to share a little bit of his special sauce today. Not that sauce.
You got to be careful with that. Come on, we're very East Coast. We take things a little kind of literally. Careful with your metaphors.
Careful what I say. Careful what I say. So, Joe, tell the folks a little bit about your interesting backstory in the shoe world, and then how you got into real estate, and then we'll talk a little bit about stuff we got on the agenda today.
Absolutely. So, prior to the last 10 years in real estate, I worked in the footwear industry for a lot of brands that you guys will probably recognize. We'll say, just do it, and everybody's got to wear some Chucks.
Yep.
But I did a lot of work overseas. So I was in Bangkok, Thailand, when the military overthrew the government. That was a little interesting, a little scary. Used to do a lot of the direct flights from Boston to Hong Kong, and then jumped to places in Vietnam, the eastern seacoast of China. So Guangzhou, Nanjing, Fushan, and then in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh City, Can Tho, and Hanoi, Haiphong Bay, and then spent a lot of time in places like Jakarta, Indonesia, and spent time in India, in Chennai. So, was bouncing around, doing a lot. And
I have a question about your shoe background.
Sure.
Was selling part of the job description?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's where, what better place to learn to sell than one of the best companies, both for branding and for sales, than there. So, for me, it was a huge experience. And what I loved about it was a global experience. So it wasn't just these hyper-specific niche markets. It's how do you do something and do it big? How do you scale out?
Yeah.
And that's where I've carried all of that over into my business and being very focused on branding and scaling, and then also efficiency, because we don't want to be grinding and pulling that lever and doing things one at a time all the time, because I want to have a life. I'm now a newer dad. I'm not a brand new dad, but these
your kids
things
are smaller.
They're smaller.
Yeah.
They're 3.5 and 1.5, but that's the thing, is what we want is the flexibility to spend that time, to not be so devoted to anything other than our families and our pursuits. That's not to say that hey, we push our business off to the side, but let's do it better.
Yeah.
Let's do it more effectively. Let's just be better and have better clients and be more profitable. Because by doing things like that, well, you're going to be happier, I'm going to be happier, our clients are going to get the best service, and it just makes it where everything's better. So why would we do anything but run towards that?
Totally, man. And Joe just literally got off stage talking about taking over a farm with open houses. But the thing that you just mentioned is a perfect transition to something that I think a lot of people can really relate to, which is figuring out how to retool an already successful business, or in some other people's cases, maybe just kind of a struggling along business, changing that so that you can spend time with those young kids, so that maybe you're a newlywed, so that you can spend time with your new spouse, and still pivot the business so that it doesn't end up costing you because you're diverting your attention away from work and towards personal life. We want to be able to enjoy both. So you did that. Go back a little bit in time about what your team looked like before, and then what the team looks like now.
Yep. So prior to having children, had a 25-person team, and we had admins, we had virtual assistants, we had on-site assistants, and then we had 25 agents. And that looked like me going gray early, losing my hair, and working just nonstop. Now, I would
That sounds familiar.
Yeah, it sounds like, yeah. Now, to be fair, being based in Boston, we would do, every quarter a vacation to Europe. So that was nice, work hard, play
Sounds
hard.
great.
I mean, it's a lot easier to, do a 4-day weekend or do a week in Europe when it's only a 5-hour flight. It actually takes longer for me to get here with you, JC, in California than to go to Europe.
Really?
So, yeah.
Dang, I didn't know that.
The one bonus to living in Boston. But that's the thing is when I wasn't doing that, I was grinding. Like I would have people laugh at me because I would keep a pillow and a blanket in my office, and some nights I would just go under the desk and take a nap because I knew it would take me more time and I would get less sleep to go home than it would be just to sleep and be there again for the morning.
That's intense, man.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing is like
literally sleeping under the bed.
Literally sleeping at the office sometimes, not that often, but enough. More than once is enough.
Yeah.
And and that's the thing is like once I had kids, I looked at it and said, I never want to leave this person. I never want to see anything less than as much as possible for this person. And then the other part of that, which was really a shock to the system, was my wife, after giving birth, 48 hours later, had to go back into the hospital to take care of some stuff because she had some blood pressure issues.
Oh.
So like she had to be monitored for days. So that meant I was home by myself with a newborn premature baby that only weighed a little over 5 pounds. So like,
dang,
my guy was a little guy and everything had to stop. And I didn't care. It was like a light switch. I was like, you know what? Nothing is more important than this little guy.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, obviously my wife was okay. We took care of all her needs and got her back home. I also took 6 weeks off from working and I had plans in place.
But I don't know any other realtors that have been able to take a paternity leave like that. So congrats to you.
Well, yeah, thanks. I mean, but that's the thing is after that and coming back and business was still going, I was like, I need to change things. I need to make it where my time is dedicated to the most important things. So I set up a transition plan and it took almost 2 years to fully implement it. So it's not like it was a, hey, overnight success. And that's kind of like the joke you hear about overnight success.
They're always 10 years in the making.
They're always 10 years in the making.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things too where like it takes so much different timing around things to get them implemented that it's difficult. So what I did was said, all right, I want to focus on building up my team the right way. So I'm going to start over. And to a lot of people, that's scary. But to me, I said, you know what? I owe it to myself to do things absolutely my way and not waste time arguing with people that didn't get it. Not to waste time on trying to train people in a way that they might not want to be trained.
So that explains why you had to kind of clean slate it, because people weren't on board with the new vision, which is different than the current vision that you have.
Exactly. And that's the thing is like, it's okay. Is it like an ego hit for some people? Sure. But for me, it was, okay, I'm ready to progress. I'm ready to go to that next level. This is how I'm going to do it. I've learned my lessons. I've taken all the great things from these people. I wish them the best. I'm not going to hold them back on pursuing things the way that they want, just like I'm not going to let them hold me back in pursuing things how I want to. So that was like the big epiphany that I had, that I was actually doing not just myself a favor, but them. So after that, one of the big things that I said was, all right, I need time efficiency. I need to make sure that my processes are time effective and that my schedule is based on inbound business. So it's going right into it and saying, all right, if I want to pick up my son from the nanny or pick up my son from daycare, or I want to have dinner, or if I want to be available, how do I make it so that my processes and my schedule And even just what I do within my business is going to cater to exactly that.
Yeah.
So part of the answer was, well, if I want to control my time, I have to potentially expand what I do. So I started coaching. A lot of people will say like, oh yeah, you know, that's the kind of joke, like, oh, people eventually just want to go and coach. And I was like, yes and no. Like, I want to, but I'm not leaving production. I'm not leaving everything behind. I'm saying I can help people to grow. I can show them and give them that fast forward button on their career. And then I can mutually benefit by getting some of my time back and having some of the consistency that real estate doesn't always allow for. And then the other thing was, with how my team was restructured, the people that were now coming in, clean slates. All they knew was, hey, this is how we do it. This is our culture. This is our standard. And there was none of that holdover of, well, we used to do it this way.
Right.
Or, oh, I prefer it this way. Oh, the old way was better. You didn't have any of that negative culture influencing it because you had that clean foundation to build on.
So no admins, nobody, you totally started fresh with everyone.
I kept one agent who also happens to be the godfather to my 2 children. So big shout out to Chris. He's a trooper. He's been with me for 9 years. Wow. So if that tells you about, you know, overall retention when it's the right people. But yeah, cleaned house, stopped everything and said, okay, what do I need to be successful? And then built it out effectively. Like, think about when, you know, you're buying a new construction home and, you know, on paper it looks good, but then you live in it for a couple of years and you're like, man, I really wish I had done this. This would have been better.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's exactly what I did just with the team.
Tested it out and said, we need some tweaks.
It needs some tweaks. I want a fresh build.
And now with the tweaks, you're able to spend more time at home.
Yep.
Home for dinner every night.
Yep.
You know, weekends probably you're not holding opens 5 times a weekend.
Not anymore. So I built my house on the open houses, and I love them. And I will, you know, occasionally do them, but I typically work 9 to 4 on weekdays, and then I will be available to people that I coach. I'll be available to my team on the weekends. But generally speaking, unless it is a community building event, I don't work on the weekends.
It's fantastic. And as a team lead, like that's what you're trying to do is be able to write your own schedule. I mean, I feel like that's what every new agent in the business is attracted to is the freedom of schedule. I'm going to write my own schedule until they learn like, oh, I have to work twice as much as most people and my schedule sucks. And then it's a matter of becoming more efficient, reeling it in, taking control of your calendar, and finally like getting to the point where you can be home at 6 o'clock for dinner.
Right. And that's the thing is like, what so many people are like, oh, you know, I want all the money. I want the biggest checks. I want everything to be me. And I'm like, I want my team members to have the biggest checks. I want the people that I coach to have the biggest checks. I want, you know, to have a healthy lifestyle, but I'm willing to pay the opportunity cost, is what I like to call it, to have the time to be with my family.
Absolutely.
Because getting to see my son's first steps, I'd rather have that than an extra $100,000 of profit.
Totally.
You only get the one once. I can make that kind of money just by working. I can't get back those special moments with my family.
Absolutely, I know. And they're going to grow up in a heartbeat.
Exactly.
So I imagine you also probably jettisoned a lot of overhead, right? Like you probably had a significant budget. I mean, with a team of 25 versus a team of what, 7 to 10 now,
7 now,
Yeah,
so I was able to reduce my committed spend, so what I was actually obligated to, by
whether or not you sold one home,
whether or not
going out every month,
it goes out every month. I was able to reduce it by 60%.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Now, why 60% and not like a higher number? Well, there's stuff that I wanted to carry over because I had the intention and the foresight that, well, I don't want to stop all of these things and then have to have them build again. I would rather continue to build the team, which was my goal and my plan, And were there struggle moments? Absolutely. Did I do things that I had to work a little bit more than I wanted to build it? Yeah, I had to front load some of that time away from my family to get more over the long term.
Right.
And that's the thing is like, you look at so many people in our industry don't want to spend money on their business. And I don't know of any other industry where you can say, hey, just talk to people, you can make a lot of money. Like, it doesn't work that way. Like you got to spend money on your business in order to grow. So to me, I was like, all right, this is the cost of admission. Let's go.
Yeah. And you have some fantastic systems in place, lead funnels, things that support your production and your team's production. And I imagine some of those things you're talking about were carryovers that you're like, hey, this is already going. Let's not stop it, because it's a momentum thing.
Exactly.
It takes a lot of time and energy to get it up and rolling. And if you're kicking solid leads out, and this guy has some nice price points on his files in downtown Boston. I mean, hey, there's not many other cities outside of here and like LA and New York that can really compete with what you're doing over there.
And that's the thing is we're that sneaky expensive city that nobody realizes.
I didn't realize
in
those
the top
price
5
were
most
there.
expensive.
Yeah. I was surprised.
One Dalton, there's a nice condo there for $40 million. It's only a 3-bedroom.
Hello.
I'm just saying.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But you probably regularly have like, $3-5 million deals like that. Like that's kind of close to your average or something?
Well, and that's the thing is like deals like that, a lot of them are off market. So, I mean, that's why like things like EXP exclusives are so important and how we're kind of just taking advantage of that. But I mean, the big thing is we have less units than some other areas. So it's not like, oh, hey, Joe has a closing every single day.
Right.
So we have to give a higher level of service, in my opinion, than a lot of agents, because if you miss out on one closing, that hurts.
Yeah.
That's like a big financial, for any business, blow, because like we're not pushing out 1,000 units. Right. We're not in Florida, just one foot in the grave, cranking out, probate everywhere because like everybody just kind of like passes on.
Yeah.
It's death's doorstep there, man. I mean, sorry, Florida, I don't really like you. I'm going to try and avoid you for at least another 200 years.
Yeah.
But that's the thing is like, we have to make sure that like, we're just a cut above the rest with those type of price points. And it's the same way here for you, man. I mean, and that's what I've always been impressed with you is just like the level of dedication that you give, not only to your clients, but also the people that you mentor and that you're developing. And
thanks, man.
It's an amazing thing to see. And that's why I think that kind of tagline, collaboration, happens at the top. I mean, there's people that say it, and then there's people like you that live it. And it's just great, man.
Thanks, dude. So it took a couple years to make this transition.
Yep.
And now your business has a very different face than it did just a few years ago.
Absolutely.
And clearly there's this quality of life that you didn't have before, and your kids are still very young, so this is like the most perfect time for you to do that. Maybe by the time they're teenagers, you're like, I've got some extra hours at the end.
That's the best part of it is like, and it's my hope that this happens is by the time it gets to that point, all the people in my organization are gonna be like, yeah, Joe, go away. Like we won't watch it. You do enough. Like go play golf or something.
Yeah.
But that's really the core of it is like for those people that are looking to transition their business, like you can do a lot more than you think. It's just you keep trying to hold on to everything.
Let's pause and talk about that. So like, let's say someone maybe doesn't have a team of 25 that is a powerhouse and they're running, and like now they want to make a change. Maybe they're a solo agent, or maybe they just have an assistant or something, and they're like, I'm working all the time. I've got a family too. How am I going to pare this back? Like, what would be some tips that you give for that person who maybe like, because with a big team, you also have big leverage, and it's a much more difficult thing to change, but at least you have people working for you, and you can when it's just you or maybe you and one person, that's going to be, how are you going to take your foot off the gas and still produce? Like, what kind of tips would you give someone like that?
So it's scheduling. and it's being
It
committed
always
to
comes
the
down to
schedule.
calendaring. Yeah.
It comes down to calendaring. But the biggest thing, and this is where like people get frustrated with me, is you have to be better at saying no. You have to say no to the wrong clients. You have to say no to people that want to alter your schedule for their needs. And you have to say no to people that are not your ideal client. Because their friends that they might refer you to, if they're an asshole, they're going to be assholes too. And you don't need more assholes. You need more people that are amazing, that are cheerleaders, and that are like out there for you. So like saying no to that bad fit might mean that you can pick up 3 good fits.
Right.
And even if you're making a little less money up front, long term, you're going to make a lot more because those referrals, that efficiency of time and that ability to build on that is going to be much better, as opposed to you have that person that's a bad fit and then your hourly rate starts creeping down because they need so many things.
Yeah. Every phone call's an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so like for a very practical, I assume like the basics is let's shore up a nice reserve, right?
Yep.
And then let's focus on how we spend every minute of our day.
Yep.
And then start being very selective with who we work with on the client side.
Yep.
And how we spend our time in the office and how much help we share in.
And it's the easiest, most implementable method to figure out if this is something you're ready for is what I call the stopwatch method. So we all have to prospect, and most don't do enough of it. So, and if you wanna cry, have one of the agents on the team do this for you, man. You say, we're gonna start a stopwatch. You only get to have it running when you're either dialing the phone and not with an automated dialer, like actually pushing the numbers, speaking to someone about real estate, or sending a text message that you're typing about real estate.
Okay.
Not automated, not setting up lists, not doing any of the other admin stuff.
Hand-to-hand combat.
Hand-to-hand combat. Eye-to-eye, proximity. So the only time that stopwatch gets to run is when you're actually doing the talking, doing the sending the message, doing all of it. If it's, oh, I'm on a dialer waiting, nope, that time doesn't count.
Right.
It's amazing the amount of time people think that they're prospecting versus doing.
That hour or two turns into 15 minutes.
Less.
Yeah.
And when you extrapolate that over, we're going to track it for 2 weeks. Oh, people get upset. People get so upset because they thought, I'm doing all of this. It's taking so much time. Well, you were getting ready to get ready.
Yeah.
You were, oh, I was getting my list. Oh, I got distracted. Oh, well, this day I didn't actually do it. And that's where
the wasted time.
The wasted time. Because something as easy as, well, I don't have a lot of money. I'm a solo agent. I want to make this transition. Well, great. You're going to hire a virtual assistant, and they're going to set up your lists and pull that data for you so that as soon as you sit down for that hour, all you're doing is calling.
It's actually a full hour of dialing.
Full hour of dialing. And you never do that task again.
This is going back to a perfect example of the calendaring that you said, because like there are so many 15, 20, 30-minute breaks that just disappear from our day.
Yep.
And if we aren't like, I've made it a habit to like track everything first of all, any stuff that I have planned to do is already in the calendar. And then I get in the morning and say others, like maybe admin, dials, other stuff that I need to do, fill that in too. And if I was off, I'll make it shorter or longer. Yep. And if I have a blank spot, I like before a half hour goes by, I'm like, crap, what did I just do? And then I put it in there. And if it means I wasted time, at least I'm being honest with myself.
Well, that's
and I wasted that time. But if I did something that wasn't on the calendar, I'm like, hey, well, actually, I got that done. And it's true. I'm being honest with myself about that because of how much time just slips away and is wasted. And then people are like, I don't know how other people are so productive. And it's like, it's just a matter of focus on those minutes.
Well, it's just that. And the other thing is how many half-hour meetings could be done in 15 minutes? How many 15-minute meetings, if concisely done, could be 5-minute meetings?
Yeah.
And then holding people accountable to that.
How many could be a Slack message?
Exactly. Yeah. And it's like, when you get more efficient and you say no to people, they know, do what you're supposed to do, get things done. And the other part is look at what is your actual hourly rate. If your hourly rate is $300 to $500, why are you doing something that a $7 an hour assistant can do for you? Why are you giving up all of that
So it sounds
money?
like another tangible handhold for someone who might be considering trying to make this transition is cheap leverage, like a VA in Mexico or the Philippines or something like that.
Colombia, depending on your area and what you need. Like,
Let's take some stuff off our plate
Yeah.
that's not $300 an hour work,
Right.
and let me focus on that.
And here's the big thing. Most of those virtual assistants are actually smarter than most people that we
A lot
interact
of them are
with.
college educated too.
College educated,
Yeah.
multilingual, and what people get stuck on is instead of playing to that person's strengths, they say, oh, I am an agent, I don't want to call people. I'm going to make this person that speaks 3 languages, but sounds like they have an accent, try and convert people,
Right.
and it doesn't work, and then they blame that person.
Right.
Instead of saying, wow, you speak 3 languages, could you translate my advertising into 3 different languages so that I could get more business and have it actually be phonetically and just common slang correct instead of like Google Translate?
Yeah.
Oh, you could do that for me? Oh, you're really good with emails? Can you like send out all the communications? Can you do all those things? And that doesn't require talking to people. Can you send an email to someone saying, hey, we have to change our appointment time, here are the options? Can you make my schedule more efficient by saying, hey, there's 10 showings that you have to do? This is the most efficient path, both for time, gas, and for availability, to hit all of those and to look like a rock star.
Totally.
But people are like, oh no, call FSBO and Expired and try and convert them. And you're like, what are you doing?
I think that's one of the biggest issues people have with virtual assistants, and it's kind of a tangent now, but I've got experience with them as well, and I feel like most people just feel like it's a VA, and they throw video editing, they throw admin work, they throw cold calls, they throw everything at this person who probably has an area of expertise if you took the time to figure it out. And so if someone's really good at organizing your day, clearing out the bullshit and like keeping you on track, they're probably not a video editor. That's a different guy.
Well, that's the thing is like, you got to look at it like the doctor's office.
Yeah.
They're like the doctors.
Right.
They're not the person that needs to like do everything, but if you find what their specialty is and you pay for their specialty, you don't need to have them doing it 40 hours a week.
Right.
Some of the VAs that I've had, I would have for 5 hours a week. But that's all I needed for the tasks that I need because they were so good at it. And it made it where I looked like a rock star and I got everything I needed. And because it was a reduced amount of time, well, I was paying
way
less.
cheaper. Yeah.
So like I was getting better ROI, better actual service, better results just by saying, hey, all right, I have my one person for it. They do that one thing. They don't need to do everything. It's that mindset of convenience where everybody's like, well, I need to dump everything on my assistant and they need to figure it out.
Right.
But that assistant doesn't get paid like we do. They don't care about our business like we do.
Yeah.
Why are they going to go to an extreme that even we're saying we're not willing to do anymore? And we expect them to have these better results. And then even more so when it's like someone that is potentially working overnight. We're not having them do...
Most of the time, they're working the graveyard.
Yeah. Not having them do the tasks that they like or love. Like, it's a recipe for disaster. Like, lean into people's strengths, lean into their happiness, build community, and use people only to the extent that you actually need them.
Yeah.
Like,
actually, I ran into that myself. I hired my first VA, and it was primarily for admin work, but we would have him do a little bit of like stuff that he said he could do, like artwork for flyers or a little bit of video stuff here and there, but it wasn't on the level. And so eventually I'm like, okay, that's not the right thing to do. Let's leave him doing this. And we picked up a different guy that only does video editing. And he also is talented with Photoshop, but he's mostly a video editor. He doesn't do anything else except creative.
yeah.
This guy, admin, such a better solution.
And that's the thing is
Yeah.
like it probably cost you less money because the specialized video editor took less time to do it.
He
So
cranks
charge-
it, yeah. He spent, and even to the guy who knows more than I do about video editing, which is not much, but he was still light years faster than the first guy. Yeah.
And that's the thing is like we look at how we can do that with all of our different business, and it scales out. It's like, okay, well, if I'm running coaching, do I need to talk to you every week? Is it more time effective to do it every 2 weeks so that you have time to implement?
Or maybe a group. Do you do groups?
Yep, we do groups.
Okay.
So that's the thing too, is like, is it where 1 week is group session and then the other week is personal session? And you still get that value, you still get that check-in, but you also have that time.
Get hours of time back from all those personal sessions.
Correct.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's one of those things where like, okay, you know your schedule, you know what you can do, and then you can do more on top of it. And that's where like people get it wrong too, is they say like, oh, well, you know, I'm a part-time agent. And I'm like, oh, well, what's part-time based on? Oh, well, I don't do it 40 hours. And I'm like, I don't do it 40 hours. They're like, wait, what? You do all this business. You don't do real estate 40 hours? I'm like, no. I also coach. I also mentor. I also have other businesses. I'm also, you know, having a family life.
You're
Like,
involved with their philanthropy as well.
right. I'm doing fundraising for St. Jude's. So like all those things take time, and there's only so many hours in a day. So like if you go by hours, well, I'm a part-time agent. And they're like, what? Like that
But
doesn't
you're
work.
producing better than most full-time agents.
Right. And that's the thing is like, it's because I've become efficient. Now, I mean, we look at like our leaders and our stalwarts in the industry. So like we got people like you, JC, who are not working just 40 or 80 hours in real estate, doing other things. You got people like Kyle Whissel, who's,
I don't know anyone more efficient than that guy.
dude,
It's amazing.
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
And he has other businesses that he does. You have people like Ryan Serhan, who obviously has a television show, has, you know, some different other endeavors.
Yeah.
And like
Author.
you know, friend of Joe Turco.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the more priority important things. But that's the thing is like none of the people at the top are just doing it full time.
Right.
Because everybody over that time gets more effective and efficient. And so like going back to those solo agents that want to like take more control, well, you have to own your time and do the stopwatch method and go back and say, all right, well, I only prospected 5 hours last week. Stopwatch time.
Yeah, that's legit.
And that's legit. Now,
You made me think of the Jocko quote, discipline equals freedom. You know? Like it sounds awful to tie yourself to your calendar and be strict with if you're 10 minutes over, then you're, you know, but it's like, that's how you get that whole evening with your family or that whole weekend.
Exactly.
Like it's the discipline here, which equals the freedom there.
And then it's the consistency on top of it. And there's a great parable that I love. And it's about two people that were given the task of moving a mountain. So they start walking up the mountain together. And the one on the left sees a huge boulder at the top. And he looks to the other and says, I'm going to go push that boulder. It's going to create a landslide. It's going to move the mountain. It's going to get it done really fast. And the other person says, okay, well, I'll go with you. So they walk up, they get to the top. And what happens? Well, they get to that boulder and that original person starts pushing on it, straining on this boulder, and eventually falls down just exhausted. Can't do it. The other person makes sure he's okay and then says, okay, well, I'll be right back. Picks up a handful of sand, walks down the mountain over to where they're supposed to move it and drops the handful of sand. Turns around and goes back. The person that's leaning against the boulder says, what are you doing? You're never going to move it that way. You have to help me do this. And the other person shakes their head and says, no, a handful will eventually move it.
Right. Consistency.
Consistency.
Okay, so we got, obviously have reserves, lock up your calendar, be super strict with yourself about how you spend your time. Leverage was a huge thing I heard, talking about whether it's a virtual assistant or somebody in person. Figure out how to take things that are not at the dollar per hour value that you are at and get someone to help you. And then
say no.
Say no. Say no is huge, because every time you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else anyways. So might as well reverse that and put your priorities in order, right?
And that's just it.
Yeah.
And that's your foundation.
Anything else you want to throw in besides those things? Because those are some solid points right there.
I mean, I would say the other thing is like, you don't meet new people by being stuck in an office.
Right.
You meet new people by being intentional about it. So let's do some easy math. So JC, if you meet 5 people a day, just on weekdays, so 5 days, how many people is that?
It's 25.
It's 25. Okay, so how many is that in a month?
100.
100, okay. And then 25 times 52. Uh-oh, I'm putting them on the spot, guys.
I don't know if I'm that good at math. What
Okay, it's 1,300.
Okay.
Now think about that. If you met 1,300 people a year, and you only had 1% conversion, that would be 13 deals that you did simply by meeting 5 people a day on weekdays. It's not that hard. Everybody in their head makes it out to be harder than it is. JC, how many florists do you think there are in San Diego?
Gosh, hundreds. Thousands, maybe?
Okay.
Yeah.
So could you call 5 of them and introduce yourself to the business owner?
For sure.
Okay, could you do that on the second day?
Yeah.
How long would it take you to get through all of those?
Maybe a year?
Maybe more, because there's probably more than 1,300.
Yeah, probably.
So do you think you're going to, in some way, potentially get business from that?
Just, you're going to know every florist in town.
And yeah, so you know every florist, but who do people go to? They go to florists. They see these people consistently. It's a very transaction-based business at scale. So when they're saying, oh, hey, I got to order this funeral wreath. Now, it might sound a little morbid, but if you have a good relationship with that florist, they might say, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, I know it's probably not appropriate now, but when you need it, I know this great agent, JC. He would definitely be able to be a resource for you in this time of need.
That'd be solid florist right there.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's all in how you train your referral partners.
Right.
But that's the thing, is like, that's just with florists. How many barbers do you know?
At least a few.
At least a few?
Yeah.
Do people, when they move here, usually need a new place to get their hair cut?
Sure.
Do you think they're going to appreciate that business?
Absolutely.
Do you think you could call a couple of those business owners that own barbershops and introduce yourself? Now, are we seeing how it's not that hard to meet 5 people a week?
And not only that, but in these 2 scenarios that you've cited, you're meeting business owners.
Yeah.
You're meeting people who probably have a good income because they are running a business. And even if they're not, they're the head of their own sphere. They are the guy in their world. Whether it's a liquor store owner or a barber or a florist or, a tailor.
And they all have storefronts, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's shocking. And we deal in what again?
Hand-to-hand combat.
Well, yeah, that too. Be careful, I'm from Boston. But that's the thing, is like, they might need to expand their space, meaning they might need to move. They might need to buy a new commercial space. They might need to do a commercial lease.
They might times they have residential investments too, these business owners.
Or they might be hiring someone that then needs a new place. Or, oh, well, I switched shops and I don't live over here. So honestly, I know it sounds terrible, but like, I don't want to drive an hour plus to get to the barber shop. I'm going to just buy a new house.
Or Joe, this is my number 2 man. He's running things over here. He hasn't bought yet. He needs to own.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's people in the same mindset. So again, it's how do we look at things critically and say, what is the best use of my time? Who are the people that I should talk to? And what am I doing? Because like from a business perspective, from a management perspective, you should never manage more than 5 people.
Right.
Now, those 5 people could be 5 assistants, or it could be 5 department heads,
Right.
or it could be 5 CEOs at 5 companies that you own.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Or it could be 5 business portfolio managers, because you have that many businesses that you're a part of. But if you're always at that 5 threshold, they're managing the 5 people that they need to. And those people, it's that trickle down.
Limits the overwhelm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you only ever have 5 people truly pulling at you, are you ever going to be overwhelmed?
Yeah. It should be smooth sailing for the most
Right.
part.
So
There'll be issues to deal with, but it's under control.
So JC is now going to shoot for 5 kids. He is committed. It's going to be great. He is just a glutton for punishment and wants to make sure that he never gets to retire.
We got 3, but we shut down the factory, so that we'd have to adopt in that case. But
so
we can do it.
You heard that. Adoption agencies, reach out to JC.
Yeah, man. Are you going to go for more?
No.
You're good?
We are shut down at 2.
Okay.
We are very happy. I am very old. I want to keep what remains of my hair on my head. I think it'll be good. But that's the thing is, like, so those agents trying to make those transitions, it's not that they can't.
Mm-hmm.
It's that they potentially don't have the roadmap.
Yeah.
And that's where they reach out to people like you or me. And
a guy who just did it himself.
Right. A guy that just did it himself. And we help you with that. Because, I mean, again, that's where one of my favorite sayings, collaboration happens at the top. It's just true. You get that fast forward button on everything that you're doing in your career. You're making it so that at the end of the day, you get that time that you need so that you can give the best of your time to the clients that are what they need.
Mm-hmm. That's great, man.
Yeah, man.
Dude, I think that's a good place to wrap it right there.
I think that's a good place.
Thank you for sharing your personal story and your professional advice. And I mean, this has got to be a very universal topic that
absolutely.
a ton of people can relate to. So, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and I think, JC, if someone's interested in learning more about the ways that you help people out, I mean, how are they going to reach you, man?
Thank you for bringing this up, Joe. So we will have Joe's handles on the screen, but also you can DM myself as well with the information below. And yeah, give him a follow. He's a funny guy, and you'll be entertained, especially if you appreciate some Boston humor.
I mean, it's a little fun, you know, especially when it's those very cold winter days, and I might have fallen down a couple too many times shoveling my steps. Humor heals all wounds.
That's right.
Especially of ego and pride.
That's right. Ego or money, right?
Right, that's it.
Cool. Well, we'll wrap it right there. Thank you for watching this episode. And like I said, give him a follow. Information is here. And reach out, and we'd be happy to answer any questions or take this conversation offline.